Hey everybody, welcome back to Conscientious Omnivore. My name is Pal. Going to be giving you guys a pretty awesome recipe that I just stumbled upon kind of by chance the other night. It came out tasting amazing, and my wife and I both agree that it is incredibly reminiscent of little bacon bits in the meal. So that's why I'm basically saying this is some kind of a vegan recipe for, I guess, like secret bacon recipe or something. But anyway, sorry for the clickbait. It's just really delicious food, and you guys can enjoy it and call it whatever you want. So basically, it's super simple, and the power of this meal is that it is incredibly fast to put together. Both of the ingredients here that need to be kind of boiled are super fast, and the rest is just kind of, you know, pan fry tofu, which takes just minutes. So basically what you need is some bulgur, which is a basically like a wheat grain. You need some buckwheat, and this is roasted buckwheat. I really like buckwheat. I usually mix it in with something. I put it into rice or, you know, barley or something else, because the flavor of it by itself, if you just made the whole thing, you know, as a standalone dish, I find it to be kind of a bit powerful and kind of overwhelms everything. This is a roasted variety, so that also kind of makes it more flavorful, and that might be the reason why I'm saying it's too much if it's by itself. But as a little bit of an added ingredient to something like rice or bulgur or something similar, then you know, then it's great. We're gonna have a couple of pieces of sun-dried tomatoes. This is pretty key to the recipe as well. Gonna have a little block of tofu. This is not a very big one. It's only 180 grams. Usually, if it's gonna be the whole, you know, family eating, I'll even make 2 of these at a go. But for this recipe, for right now, this is fine. Just a small one. And then you have got a couple of radishes. Now, radishes are actually something that I have noticed before. If you leave them in the fridge a little too long and they start getting a little bit kind of dried out, you can start seeing some of the little wrinkles forming on this guy, and this one too. It is a very interesting thing. If you actually pan fry radish, sliced into little small pieces, they actually kind of take on this bacon-like texture. It's very interesting. So that is the secret ingredient, really. But the sun-dried tomatoes, for some reason, also kind of combine with this and make it really, I don't know, kind of an interesting flavor. So let's get to work. And basically the first step, because it takes the longest, is we're going to take about a mug's worth of the bulgur and buckwheat. And what I do is go to like at least maybe 2/3 or even close to like 3/4 full with the bulgur, and then I just add to get to the top, I add the buckwheat at the end. Okay, so maybe a little bit more, nothing crazy though. And then we're gonna just wash this guy, and so just, you know, rinse it out a couple times. And then what you are going to do is put on basically 2 and maybe like 1/3 as much water onto here, a small pinch of salt, and get it on the stove so that it starts boiling. And then we'll start prepping the other ingredients. I say to start with this because it takes the longest. So let's get that going, and I'll join you guys in a bit. So just started the heat under the pan here. Or the little pot, I should say, and then there we have the buckwheat and the bulgur. You could just as easily substitute rice or barley or any type of, you know, other similar grain of your choice. So I always cover it a little bit like this, but I have the spoon to make sure it doesn't, you know, completely sit flat, because it'll prevent, this will prevent any kind of boiling over and spilling out. So handy tip. Let's get the other ingredients chopped up. So I've got everything chopped up and ready to go. Got my spices out and stuff, and some olive oil and a little bit of soy sauce. So what you can see is that I've cubed up the tofu. And we are going to start adding our spices. I usually go with a little bit of curry or turmeric. This is turmeric right now. I'm actually all out of curry. I need to go to the store and buy some. That's paprika. Then we got some caraway seeds, which is really great for digestion and taste. I always like to add a mix of seasonings. This is just kind of like a, I don't know, Mediterranean style mix. It's got like basil and rosemary and I don't even know what other stuff in there. Pretty great stuff. And then I also like to add a bunch of nutritional yeast. So this is just in a big bag, and I always keep some in a jar. So I like to add a bunch of that. And then add a little splash of olive oil. I don't go crazy on it, but I do add a little bit. Find that it helps a little bit with both not sticking to the pan and also just with flavor, obviously. And then just some soy sauce as well. I know some people will say you add the soy sauce at the end, but I actually like to do it at the beginning because it kind of helps all the you know, all the herbs and spices and everything kind of stick to everything really well. And I also find that it helps to make sure it doesn't stick. We're going to throw this on the stove and get it going on medium heat. And then once the tofu is starting to crisp up, we are going to add the diced up or sliced up radishes and the tomatoes. And you can see that I went pretty thin with the radishes. You want them to really crisp up. So let's get to it. Oh, and I forgot to add the pepper. Don't want to forget that. Gotta add some pepper. And obviously, if you'd like, you could add whatever other flavors and seasonings and stuff you would want. This works really well with smoked tofu or other kinds of, you know, flavored tofu already. Yeah, basically you can do whatever you want. I can imagine it would be really well. It would go really well with spicy, you know, chili flakes or something like that as well. Let's get to it. You can see the buckwheat and bulgur really already boiling pretty nicely. I do stir it occasionally. Just wanted to show it to you guys. And just mix this up, but it hasn't even really gotten hot yet, so we're gonna definitely let that go a little bit more. And I'll check back in with you guys in a bit. So you can see that the pan is pretty hot right now. And I do stir this occasionally, make sure that it doesn't really kind of stick down to the pan. But ultimately, you kind of want to just make sure that all the pieces of tofu are coated nice and well with all the seasonings and herbs and what have you. And it's actually, you know, good for them to get a little bit crispy. You kind of want to make sure that they are getting a little bit crispy. So you don't have to sit here and stir them constantly. I usually just kind of give them a good stir, kind of scrape up anything from the bottom if it's stuck a little bit, and then just let them sit again for a while. And meanwhile, you can see that the grains here are almost done. So I'm just going to stir that again. And you want to keep an eye on it once you start seeing the water kind of almost disappear. You want to make sure it doesn't burn at the bottom. So yeah, you just want to keep an eye on that and make sure it doesn't burn or stick to the bottom. But basically, this is the fastest cooking grain I find, is the bulgur and the buckwheat. I mean, they're just so fast. It's kind of like amaranth or quinoa. They pretty much are done by the time the water boils. Like it's so fast, way faster than rice or other things. So yeah, barley's really slow in comparison. So anyway, yep, keep an eye on it, and I'll check back in with you guys in a bit. Okay guys, starting to get nice and crispy, so we're going to add the other chopped up ingredients here, the radishes and the sun-dried tomatoes. And then we are going to start stirring this up as well. And we'll keep checking in with you guys. The grains are almost done, so we're going to have to stop that pretty soon. So you can see now that most of the water is gone. When you're stirring this, you can actually see kind of at the bottom that almost all the water is gone. You really want to keep a close eye on this, make sure it doesn't start sticking. So just kind of stir regularly, maybe every minute or so, and keep checking on it. And meanwhile, this is crisping up nicely as well. You want to stir this every once in a while too. It's actually pretty easy to time this right so that the grains are pretty much ready when your tofu is ready. But if the grain's finished before this is ready, no problem. Just set it to the side. Make sure you remove it from the heat source so that it doesn't keep evaporating the water and then stick to the bottom of the pot. It's only been about another minute or so, but now you can see that the water is gone. So I'm going to stop this and put it to the side, and I'm just going to leave it covered so it doesn't get dried out. So you guys can hopefully see that everything is really nice and crispy now, and especially the little radishes you can see are really kind of crispy on their edges and looking really nice. And what you want to do now is take your grains and throw them in the pan here. I actually probably won't use all of them in here because it would probably be a little too much. So I'm going to leave a little bit in the pot here. You can just eat that later with something else or even by itself, just as a snack. I just don't want too much because it's not going to fit really well. So put that to the side. And yeah, you just want to kind of stir it in. Could probably have even put a little bit less than I did. If anything sticks to the bottom, don't worry, just kind of scrape it up a little bit. That's just added flavor. You don't worry about that. Just keep going until everything's nice and mixed up. For anybody who's not used to cast iron, I just can't say enough nice things about it. I am a huge cast iron fan. Really love it for a lot of things. If anybody hasn't seen my video that I did recently with the flatbread or tortilla or whatever it is from the sourdough, check that out. I use the cast iron pan for that as well. It works really great. It really distributes heat really nicely and evenly. I wouldn't say it's fully non-stick, but it's pretty close, and they're extremely durable. I mean, they're made to last. You can, give this to your grandkids pretty much if you take care of it and just, don't abuse the stuff or don't drop it, I guess. Actually, I'm not even sure. It could probably stand a dropping or two as well. Alright, so we are almost done here. Just give it like another minute or so. You want to kind of really, crisp up a little bit of the grains as well. Get them nice and incorporated into the mix here. Let that sit for a couple seconds here, and just give it another stir or two. But basically it's done. So I'm even going to just turn off the heat. The electric stove obviously still stays hot for quite a while. This is not an induction top, so this will stay really hot for quite a while. I'm going to let it sit for another few seconds, and then I'll just stir it one or two more times. But basically we are done. So let's get this put out on a plate and show you guys what it looks like at the end. So there you have it. I think this is just an awesome meal. Couldn't recommend it enough. I guess you can kind of think it's similar to like a fried rice or some other kind of similar dish. The flavors are really intense, really great. I can't stress this enough. Like, I was actually quite surprised when I put this together the other night, just how kind of like meaty those little radish pieces and the sun-dried tomatoes are. The buckwheat, I think, is a definite must for the recipe. You can definitely switch out the bulgur for rice or barley if you'd like. But yeah, let me know if you guys make this and if you like it. but I think this is definitely a crowd pleaser here. Super cheap, super fast. The whole thing really probably only takes about 25-30 minutes to do. Took me a little longer now just because I was trying to do it for the camera, but I mean, it's super fast. Like basically by the time the water boils, the thing's ready to go. Like it's almost done. So it's really quick, and you can see there's quite a bit left. And I would say this would easily feed 2 hungry people, you know, maybe more if you're not quite so full or not quite so famished, or if you're going to have it with something else like a soup or, you know, an appetizer or something like that. But super great, super nutritious, you know, really great ingredients in there for you guys. And if you did like it, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more recipes. I've got a bunch of stuff on there you can check out. And yeah. See you in the new video soon. Bye.